Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the European Liberal Forum, I would like to open this conference, and it's my pleasure that I can be here. My name is Šárka Šoup. I am a board member of the European Liberal Forum and executive director of the Institute for Politics and Society. I would like to also thank to our speakers for accepting our invitation, that they came here. And now I will just give a word to our chairman, Jan Macháček, who will just give us some welcoming words.
Okay, thank you, Šárka. My name is Jan Macháček. I am chairman of the board of the Institute for Politics and Society, who is organizing this discussion and a seminar about liberalism together with the European Liberal Forum. We already did one event focused on this topic at the beginning of last year. I think it was very successful, but we were thinking that it would be worthwhile to do it also in English with our international partners. But the format is basically similar. As you can imagine, it's very hard to, and we were not even attempting or hoping that topic like liberalism these days and during the war would attract much attention. But we are glad that you are here and you will get involved in the discussion. I hope it's going to be more like open, like kind of a seminar. In Central Europe, some people say that it's usual that liberals are like 7–8% of the population. So, and in a situation like we are facing now, like with security threats and war, obviously there is people have energy crisis, social crisis. People have different troubles mostly. We also, like an institute, obviously are interested in security and geopolitics. And for instance, last week we did a huge conference called Challenges for Euro-Atlantic Partnership, which was obviously mostly about all war-related and security issues. So what are we going to talk about? Like, so there is first thing, there is a confusion in what liberalism is. Everyone knows about, people know about classical liberals, for instance, which is close to my heart and to many of my colleagues. But there is also libertarianism, and there is American liberalism, which I thought is something completely different, because it's basically a different name for progressive movement. But it's like with Halloween recently. You know about the catastrophe in South Korea during the Halloween. I was just wondering, what do South Koreans have with Halloween? But it's just exporting of this American culture. It's not only about Halloween. By the way, we also had a stampede in Moravia immediately after the catastrophe in Seoul. There were reports in the media there was a stampede in Moravia because of the Halloween, so it was even more surprising for me. So this exporting of American liberalism, it seems to me like the same like exporting Halloween and whatever. So it's just this globalization of American kind. But it's confusing in here, because more and more, and especially younger generation, are using in this country the term liberalism for progressivism. And I think it's something completely different, and it should be discussed. We even have magazines which are, like for instance, Respect Weekly, which considers itself liberal, but it's absolutely progressive. We even in a liberal family in Europe, we have parties like Progressive Slovakia, which is part of ALDE movement, ALDE party, sorry, and it's even by name, they call themselves progressive. So there are many other important things. We know that liberty is more and more threatened in current world, in current Europe. First, it was My colleague in Lidové Noviny recently, Zbigněk Petráček, had an excellent column about new normality, in Czech new normal, so you always have some new normal emerging. Like first it's due to the terrorism threats, then you had COVID, now you have a war, and there are constant tendencies to limit freedom and liberty, which also should be properly discussed at this seminar. We should also definitely speak who are liberals. So I believe that liberals are people who, among all the important values and pillars of the society, value freedom most. And as our friendly and sister organization in Germany, represented here by Mr. Doering, they have it even in the name, Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, or für die Freiheit. I would say that this expression is kind of disappearing recently. I see billboards of European Commission promoting the European Union, which is campaigning, which is everywhere in Prague these days. So one of the slogans is democracy, inclusiveness, and sustainable development. So I was asking myself, where is freedom? Like, is it not important for a younger generation anymore? So, and it says future is yours. So, and there are different versions of it, but there is, freedom is never there. So sorry for being too long. So this is just like to introduce our fruitful seminar and conference. And let me welcome first panelist of the first panel, which will focus on relationship of classical liberalism and libertarianism. And I would like to welcome our panelists, starting with Mr. Doering, who is a director of Friedrich Naumann Foundation for this region. Welcome. Mr. Outrata is a former senator and chief of statistical office in this country and member of the board of this institute, among other things. Welcome. Mr. Schwarz is a founder of Liberální Institute, Liberal Institute in Prague, but he is also a businessman. He is active in many other fields. And my colleague Štěpán Hobza is a journalist from Lidové Noviny who is interested in these issues and will be a very interesting speech. And so without getting more, I would like to ask Mr. Doering for his on your mind related to these issues. All these remarks are welcome. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak here. I think the first topic I would like to mention is Halloween is not American. It's actually Irish. It's a Celtic ritual. And since Prague was one of the biggest Celtic settlements, it's totally appropriate for Czechs to celebrate it, I think. At any rate, wherever a festivity comes from, one should never leave out any opportunity to celebrate, to be happy. So that's my first remark, and I think it's a very liberal one. Second one, you mentioned that Americans today think that liberal, that means simply progressive. Maybe it's right, but we shouldn't allow this. I would rather prefer to call it left-wing or statist ideology. Left-wing is better because progressive is actually a nice word, I think. And we should claim it. We should not allow it to be taken away from liberals. Because if you look at history over a long period, but even if you make measurements, comparative measurements, in the last decades or so, you will always find out that the biggest engine of progress was freedom. Freedom of creativity, freedom of the economy, freedom of allowing to do what you want unless you do not harm other people. And I think this kind of, the philosopher Isaiah Berlin called it negative liberty, that is, you are protected as a person against infringements of your personal freedom, of your, to put it in the words of the philosopher John Locke, who is generally credited to be somehow the inventor of liberalism, self-ownership